As you might expect from a graduate of MIT with a degree in mechanical engineering, Phil Young was a natural-born innovator, entrepreneur, and problem solver. Young changed the game forever when he invented the Titleist golf ball in his small rubber plant and made it the #1 golf ball manufacturer in the world. And it all started with the most fortuitous missed putt in history.
Phil Young was in a match with a friend who happened to be a doctor, and he stroked his putt on the 18th, and he thought he'd stroked it well, and the putt veered offline and he missed the putt. So he was convinced that it wasn't his stroke, that it was something wrong with the ball. So he told his friend, Dr. Bonner, that he wanted to go back to St. Luke's Hospital in New Bedford and x-ray the ball. And sure enough, they x-rayed the golf ball, and the center of the ball was shifted. So he was able to prove that it wasn't in fact his stroke, it was the problem with the ball.
Phil was determined to engineer the most consistent and high-quality golf ball ever created and employed his fellow MIT graduate, Dr. Fred Baumer, who just happened to be a rubber specialist.
Back in the day, golf balls, they were liquid-filled. So you would put a precise amount of liquid in the center, patch it, and then you would wind around it. So what they did is they took these liquid-filled centers and they froze them in liquid nitrogen so that when the golf balls were wound, and they would wind them very, very tightly, that it would stay perfectly concentric. And then the liquid nitrogen would just evaporate, and then they could put the cover on it, and that kept the balls perfectly round. So that was one of their very, very early inventions, and they also chose to x-ray every single golf ball before it would leave the plant.
When he perfected his creation in 1935, the brand needed a name, and he settled on Titleist, based on his belief that this ball would give golfers the best chance to win. And to convince the golfing public of that, he developed a demonstration caravan to put his innovation to a test.
And on the back of this caravan were these dual pendulum machines. And what they would do is they would launch golf balls, and they would launch the Titleist golf ball next to whatever the competitive golf ball was. And they would be at country clubs around the country. Sometimes they might have, a dozen or so spectators. Sometimes they'd have up to 2,000 people. And they would see the Titleist golf ball launch flying through the air, and they would see the competitive product flying through the air, which would fly erratically. And that was how they got the word out. So I think its roots and origins are really in the idea that if you play with this product, it will give you the best performance and the best chance for success.
The 1949 U.S. Open presented another breakthrough moment when Titleist became the most played golf ball at that year's championship.
And what is very cool about that is we have won the ball count at the U.S. Open every year since. So we look back at the U.S. Open as sort of a flagship event, and certainly put a stake in the ground for Titleist being the #1 ball in golf. One of the things that was so important at the time was that if the best players use your product, that was the affirmation or the validation that it was in fact the best. So if the best players were going to trust their livelihood, their game to that product, that was really the beginnings of the pyramid of influence, as we call it. Because if they trust their game, their livelihood to it, it validated that product was the best.
Little did he know at the time, but Phil Young's invention would elevate the Acushnet company into a global golf brand that maintains its roots in the greater New Bedford area.
Well, we've been in New Bedford, obviously since 1932. And that's really where our people are. That's where the expertise is. We have people that work in the ball plants that their parents have been there, their grandparents have been there, aunts and uncles. And so we have a tremendous amount of expertise in designing and producing golf balls. They were so proud of what they did, of what they built, what the Titleist brand stands for and represents, and the fact that we were still in that community.
And for his eureka moment with a golf ball and an x-ray machine, which has influenced the way the game of golf has been played ever since, Philip Young is inducted into the Massachusetts Golf Hall of Fame.
On behalf of the Acushnet Company and Titleist, we want to thank the Massachusetts Golf Association for inducting Phil Young into the Mass Golf Hall of Fame. It is an incredible honor, and we appreciate our long-standing association with Mass Golf and are so happy to be manufacturing Titleist golf balls right down the road. Thank you very much.